So far, I would say those conversations are going very well. But again, this is all dependent upon them agreeing to support these proposals at the end of the day.
Mayor Ted Wheeler reveals his 5-point plan to address homelessness in Portland. It includes building affordable housing, work opportunities for homeless, banning unsanctioned encampments, creating diversion programs for criminal offenses, and working the city budget to pay for it all. Good evening. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Ray Casaway.
And I'm Catherine Kissel. The mayor tells us he'll introduce those resolutions to the council next week. We have live team coverage for you, including reaction from homeless advocates and the 3 candidates for Oregon governor.
Let's begin with Megan Allison, who's breaking down the mayor's plan. Megan, you spoke with Mayor Wheeler directly today. How will he enforce a ban on camping?
Yeah, right. The mayor says arrests and fines are an option, but not the first resort. He's using the current work of the impact reduction team in places like schools and high crash corridors as the model, urging campers towards alternatives. But the city does not plan to enforce at large until designated campsites are there. Mayor Ted Wheeler says his goal is opening 3 sites that can house 100 to 125 campers before winter starts. But Wheeler tells us that's contingent upon new funding, either through the county or the state.
We do have locations in mind. We're currently in discussions with those who control those sites, and we'll be ready to discuss them as soon as we have agreements in place. And I hope the first one will come fairly quickly.
Commissioner Dan Ryan addressed concerns around the timeline, given the current pace of opening safe rest villages in Portland. Ryan says support is growing.
Since the resolutions were passed, we did start moving much faster. And so I'm delighted that we have a lot that we can reveal to the larger camps that we're talking about and what we've learned from the siting and the opening of the safe rest villages.
I asked the mayor how the city will respond if people refuse to leave their current campsite.
But if somebody just absolutely digs in and says, I won't go, then we'll have to talk about criminal sanctions. But I also want to stress the 4th resolution that we put into place. Our goal here isn't to write a bunch of citations.
Wheeler went on to reference the 4th point of his plan and how a diversion program could play a role.
Actually waive those citations in exchange for services such as mental health or substance abuse treatment services. That's the ultimate goal here. It's not to penalize people. It's not to criminalize people. We want to steer people towards the help they need.
We did hear from plaintiffs in the ADA lawsuit against the city over campsites blocking sidewalks. They say they applaud an unsanctioned camping ban. I did ask the mayor if this lawsuit influenced his decision, and he says that was not the case. We're live in downtown Portland. Megan Allison, Katu News.
Megan, thank you. Local leaders and homeless advocates are also reacting to the mayor's announcement.
While they see it as a positive step, they say it's not a perfect one. Our team coverage continues now with Katu's Joe English. Joe, there are some things city councilors and people who look out for the homeless are worried about.
Yeah, and that's mainly the camping ban part of it. You know, the fact that somebody could get a ticket or even tossed in jail, perhaps, if they do what, like we could possibly see behind us, if we get the traffic to move a few tenths over there. That's what we'll be talking about in the months to come. But homeless advocates say there needs to be more attention paid to several other aspects as well.
One concern is the timeline for this big project. Can it happen fast enough to help in the very near future?
There just has to be more urgency, and we're about to finally turn the corner into winter. And as relieved as we all might be about rain and cooler temperatures, it's not necessarily going to be an advantage for the people who are houseless.
Scott Kerman heads up Blanchet House in Portland. He thinks even with the incentives provided by the mayor's plan, some people just don't trust the system.
I think my chief concern, based on the community that we serve at Blanchet House, is that people who will be resistant to these incentives will do so because they've been victimized in congregate shelters before. And it's one of the reasons why even in extreme weather events during the winter or summer, they don't take advantage of emergency shelters.
But the main concern for Kerman is turning homeless campers into criminals.
Well, I certainly have a lot of questions about the enforcement mechanism of this ban. And I think Mayor Wheeler acknowledged that those individuals who are not incentivized to select services and shelter options will be arrested. And so I think that this brings up aspects of criminalizing homelessness.
And that's not all the advocates are worried about, so we'll hear more on that coming up tonight on K2 News at 6. We'll also hear from local leaders on what they say about the plan. That's all tonight at 6. Right now, we're live in North Portland. Joe English, K2 News.
A lot of people weighing in. Joe, thank you. A recent survey found that homelessness is the top concern for Oregonians. 37%, in fact, said homelessness was the #1 issue, followed by housing, crime, addiction, and the economy. When it comes to getting people off the streets, 7 in 10 respondents agreed that Oregon should guarantee temporary housing or shelter. Support is also strong for guaranteeing permanent housing, with 64% saying it should be a basic human right. Oregonians, though, are split when it comes to homelessness and the election. 46% say that the issue will make them more likely to vote in November, while 45% said it won't affect their voting behavior.
Meanwhile, Oregon's 3 candidates for governor have all made the homeless crisis part of their campaign platforms. Today, we asked each of them to weigh in on Wheeler's plan. K2's Christina Giardinelli is live in Salem tonight. Christina, what did they tell you?
Yeah, unaffiliated candidate Betsy Johnson, Republican Christina Drazen, and Democrat Tina Kotek all said they briefed with Mayor Wheeler last week. In a written statement, Betsy Johnson said in part in a written statement, she said, "I have been the loudest, clearest voice in calling for the end of tent cities in Portland. I am glad to see Mayor Wheeler taking action. It's long overdue." Kotek also sent a written statement. It reads in part, "This is the right direction, but here's the thing. The city keeps saying that they're going to do what they're going to do, but not enough has actually happened. They need to follow through, and they should start by picking up the trash immediately." Drazen's statement reads in part, "I spoke with the mayor about his plan last week. Location, security, and management of his new initiative are unknown at this time, which leaves some major issues unanswered, but I'm pleased to see the city finally taking action."
Talked to a few organizations that work directly with the homeless community in Portland. Some tell me they believe this proposal is a long time coming. Others say they still have unanswered questions and they're worried this could do more harm than good. Kevin Dahlgren is the president with the group We Heart Portland. Over the last few months, they took it into their own hands to address homeless camps in areas like the Pearl District. Dahlgren says they picked up trash and directed campers towards services. Now, this group is optimistic they can collaborate with the city moving forward.
And it looks like they're trying to make a genuine effort to try to solve this crisis. Obviously, they have differences, but I like how they, it seems like they're coming together and working together because that's what's needed. This is a collaboration. You need to work with everybody.
One program manager with the nonprofit Street Route says her organization was not consulted before the release of this proposal. Now, Raven Drake tells us she has concerns with the approach to homeless camps.
This proposal simply vilifies it. Criminalizing being poor and on the streets is not going to be a way in which doing this. We know that not everybody's going to want to be in these encampments.
Affiliated candidate Betsy Johnson and Republican Christine Drazen have both been vocal about what they say is a need to collect more information on why people are homeless in Oregon. Their opponent, Democratic Tina Kotek, has been critical of that approach. This week, I talked to all three to try and get an idea of what the plan is to collect that data. When it comes to the homeless crisis, one thing is clear. Oregonians want their leaders to find solutions. Bedford resident Brooke Midkiff.
I think we could do a lot better for our homeless people with the resources that we have available.
The Oregon Values and Beliefs Center surveyed almost 2,000 Oregonians, finding the majority feel homelessness is the biggest issue they want leaders to address. The 3 candidates for governor have all made it a central part of their platforms. Unaffiliated candidate Betsy Johnson and Republican candidate Christine Drazen have said they want more data to understand why people are homeless.
We don't have a good profile of the people that are on the streets. I think we need to do a census
and ensure that on a case-by-case basis, we are meeting their needs in real time and have a better understanding of what those needs are.
Democratic candidate Tina Kotek is critical of that stance.
They want to focus on data first. That's something we should have done 5 years ago. Right now, we have to get started. We have to connect people with services. We can't wait to have a big database collected.
This week, I asked Johnson to elaborate on the census she spoke about during K2's governor candidates debate.
Right. Tina is characterizing me as saying, I want to study this subject. I don't want to study it. I'm the only one of the 3 of us that's doing it every day. So this isn't some big study. This is sitting down with a person and listening to their story.
Sounds like what you're talking about is caseworkers, which already exist in most organizations, right?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, in some organizations they do.
She didn't lay out any plans to collect statewide data or a census, but said she'd talk with cities and counties to get them on the same page in trying to understand homeless needs.